yeah. Oh, hi. Yes, it's starting. It's 1:30. What up? I see no bubbles. Are you here? Are you here? I'm here. Do. It is 1:30. Am I early? Did you guys think like I wasn't going to do it or something? Yes. Where the heck am I now? It's like, where's Waldo? Let's play. Where's Alison? Because I could be anywhere. We don't know where I am. So, hi. Okay. Oh, yes, bonnet. It's red. We're going very red today. Do you know today is the first day of summer? Yes. It's the 20th, and it is the first day of summer, and it's really freaking hot where I am. It's hot. So hot. But it's air conditioned in here. We like that. No, seriously, so it's June 20th, and National Coogan Amon Day, and yeah, that is a kind of cake, apparently. American Eagle Day, International, cannot pronounce this, Nystagmus Day, Nystagmus Day. It's a terrible eye condition, very serious, but they have a whole Nystagmus awareness webpage. You can read all about it. National Hike with a Geek Day. Well, if you go on a hike with me, because I am a total geek. National Vanilla Milkshake Day. Oh, man. Totally having that later. Also, though, National Ice Cream Soda Day. I think they are in competition and should have different days. That National Ice Cream Soda Day and National Vanilla Shake. Because you can't, we can have both. You get sick. Okay. Anne and Samantha Day. Winter and summer solstice. And I was like, who, what, where? Well, it's actually Anne Frank, the famous Anne Frank, and a lovely little girl named Samantha Smith, who died quite young, but she was writing to the Russians about nuclear war and trying to bring the nations together. So it's Anne Frank and Samantha Smith. It's very nice. National Seashell Day, and summer begins. Longest day of the year. All right. So, yes, we're still a little town on Prairie. Okay, it is all hitting the fan. It is all hitting the fan because, so yesterday things got weird. Miss Wilder, who was like so smarmy and nice, suddenly went berserk and started yelling at people, and she threw Laura out of school because Carrie is not well. Carrie is, and she's not well. And she was rocking her seat, and the teacher didn't understand and started screaming at her. Like, and of course, can't. It's iron old school benches, and so then Laura was like, "Fine, I'll do it." And they had this huge fight, and Laura rocked the seat, and they got actually sent home. Big scandal in the 1800s. So Mom and Pa were horrified, but Pa's on the school board, and that's what this is all about. Is because Nellie Olson, because yes, all bad things are my fault. Nellie Olson had been telling the teacher that she and Lawrence found this in the school board, and now there's this whole animosity and palace intrigue and backstabbing. Well, oh look, the school board's having their meeting. They're visiting the school. That's gonna get ugly, and actually it is, because there's terrible revenge upon Liza Jane Wilder, because again, Nellie is evil. Again, still, yes, and bad things happen. I have snacks. I have Trader Joe's sesame sticks. They're these little things. Healthy. They're good. Well, thank you. I like red too. And then there's some blueberries. I like red, white, and blue. It's awesome. And of course, Diet Coke. So, here we go. Dun. School board visits. For those of you doing this, what chapter? Were they just not even numbering the chapters in this thing anymore? They just gave up. They did. They gave up numbering chapters. So, School Days was number 13. And Sent Home from School then is numbered, right? It says number 14. Does it? It does. And then School Boards Visit, and there's no number. It's like some freak weird thing on the page. There's no number. So, it's 15. Page 166. Laura thought that Nellie Olson looked surprised and disappointed when she and Carrie came into the schoolhouse next morning. Yes, I was. Nellie might have expected that they would not come back to school. Oh, I'm sure that was the plan. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you've come back, Mary Powers said, and Ida gave Laura's arm a warm little squeeze. You wouldn't let her meanness keep you away from school, would you, Laura? Ida said. I wouldn't let anything keep me from getting an education, Laura replied. I guess you wouldn't get an education if you were expelled from school, Nellie put in. Like someone hit her. Laura looked at her. I have done nothing to be expelled for, and I won't do anything. You couldn't be anyway, could you, with your father on the school board, said Nellie. I wish you'd stop talking about Pa's being on the school board, Laura burst out. I don't know what business it is of yours if... And the bell began to ring then, and they all went to their seats. Carrie was carefully good, and in obedience to Pa, Laura was well behaved too. She did not think then of the Bible verse that speaks of the cup and platter that were clean only on the outside, but the truth is that she was like that cup and platter. She hated Miss Wilder. She still felt a burning resentment against Miss Wilder's cruel unfairness to Carrie. She wanted to get even with her. Outside, she was shining clean with good behavior, but she made not the least effort to be truly good inside. Heavy. The school had never been so noisy. All over the room there was a clatter of books and feet and a rustle of whispering. Only the big girls and Carrie sat still and studied. Whichever way Miss Wilder turned, unruliness and noise swelled up behind her. Suddenly, there was a piercing yell. Wait, I want more light. Yes, I like it in the dark here. Don't you mean that? Oh, yes, that's better. I can see. Yes. Charlie had leaped to his feet. His hands were clapped to the seat of his trousers. A pin! He yelled, a pin in my seat! He held up a bent pin for Miss Wilder to see. Wait, wasn't he going to do... He was threatening to put a bent pin on her seat, and they were going to... And now he sat on one. Her lips pressed tight together. This time she did not smile. Sharply she said, "You may come here, Charlie." Charlie winked at the room and went trudging up to Miss Wilder's desk. "Hold out your hand," she said, as she reached inside her desk for her ruler. For a moment she felt about for it. Then she looked into the desk. Her ruler was not there. She asked, "Has anyone seen my ruler?" Not a hand was raised. Miss Wilder's face went red with anger. She said to Charlie, "Go stand in that corner, face to the wall." Charlie went to the corner, rubbing his behind as if he still felt the pinprick. Clarence and Alfred laughed aloud. Miss Wilder turned toward them quickly, and even more quickly Charlie looked over his shoulder and made such a face at her that all the boys burst out laughing. Charlie was so quick that she saw only the back of his head when very quickly she turned to see what had caused the laughter. 3 or 4 times she turned quickly this way and that, and Charlie turned more quickly, making faces at her. Oh, that old trick is like, oh, so he's like, yeah, he's getting away with this, but eventually she's going to catch it because he's doing it over and over again. The whole school was roaring. Only Laura and Carrie were able to keep their faces perfectly straight. Even the other big girls were strangling and choking into their handkerchiefs. Miss Wilder rapped for order. She had to rap with her knuckles. She had no ruler. And she could not keep order. She could not watch Charlie every minute, and whenever her head was turned, he made a face at her, and laughter broke out. He's kind of like the Willie. Like, Willie doesn't have a big part in this. This would be Willie's show. We had no Charlie on the show. Character Charlie doesn't exist. On the show, we had this would all be like Willie stuff. This is how we would have done it. The boys were not breaking their promise to Laura, but they were contriving to be even naughtier than they had promised not to be. And Laura did not care. Truth to tell, she was pleased with them. Because, yeah, they were going to go put a tack on the teacher's chair, and they did promise not to do that, but they didn't promise not to cause a scene in other ways. So, when Clarence slid out of his seat and came up the aisle on all fours, she smiled at him. At recess, she stayed in the schoolhouse. She was sure the boys were planning more mischief, and she meant to be where she could not hear them. After recess, the disorder was worse. The boys kept paper wads and spitballs flying on their side of the room. Oh, good to know spitballs were a thing even in the 1800s, yay. All the smaller girls were whispering and passing notes. While Miss Wilder was at the blackboard, Clarence went down the aisle on his hands and knees. Alfred followed him, and Charlie, light-footed as a cat, ran down the aisle and leapfrogged over their backs. They looked for Laura's approval, and she smiled at them. "What are you laughing at, Laura?" Miss Wilder asked sharply, turning from the blackboard. "Why, was I laughing?" Laura looked up from her book and sounded surprised. The room was quiet. The boys were in their seats. Everyone seemed to be busily studying. "Well, see that you don't," Miss Wilder snapped. She looked sharply at Laura, then turned to the blackboard, and almost everyone but Laura and Carrie burst out laughing. All the rest of the morning, Laura was quiet and kept her eyes on her lessons, only stealing a glance at Carrie now and again. Once Carrie looked at Laura. Laura put a finger to her lips, and Carrie bent again over her book. With so much noise and confusion behind her, whichever way she turned, Miss Wilder grew confused herself. At noon, she dismissed school half an hour early, and again Laura and Carrie were asked to explain their early arrival at home. They told of the disorder in school, and Pa looked serious. But all he said was, "You girls be very sure that you behave yourselves. Now remember what I say." They did. Next day, the disorder was worse. The whole school was almost openly jeering at Miss Wilder. Laura was appalled at what she had started by only 2 smiles at naughtiness. Still, she would not try to stop it. She would never forgive Miss Wilder's unfairness to Carrie. She did not want to forgive her. Now that everyone was teasing and baiting, or at least giggling at Miss Wilder, Nellie joined in. She was still teacher's pet, but she repeated to the other girls everything that Miss Wilder said and laughed at her. One day she told them Miss Wilder's name was Eliza Jane. "It's a secret," Nellie said. "She's told me a long time ago, but she doesn't want anyone else here to know it." See, this is really evil. Nellie befriended this woman to totally use her and get her to pick on Laura, and now she's totally screwing her over. She's telling her secrets. So never trust. Why do people trust Nellie? Why do people trust Nellie? Also, I do not know. But there you go. Now she's doing it. Well, I don't see why, Ida wondered. Eliza Jane is a nice name. "I can tell you why," said Nellie. "When she was a little girl in New York State, a dirty little girl came to school, and Miss Wilder had to sit with her, and..." Nellie drew the others close and whispered, "She got lice in her hair." They all backed away, and Mary Power exclaimed, "You shouldn't tell such horrid things, Nellie." "I wouldn't, only Ida asked me," said Nellie. "Why, Nellie Oleson, I did no such thing," Ida declared. "You did so." "Listen," Nellie giggled, "that isn't all. Her mother sent a note to the teacher, and the teacher sent the dirty little girl home, so everyone knew about it. And Miss Wilder's mother kept her out of school a whole morning to fine-comb her hair. Miss Wilder cried and cried, and she dreaded so to go back to school that she walked slow and was late. At recess, her whole class made a ring around her and kept yelling, 'Lazy, lousy Liza Jane.' And from that day to this, she just can't bear her name. As long as she was in that school, that's what anyone called her that got mad at her. Lazy, lousy Liza Jane." That's horrible. That's really horrible. That's almost worse than stuff I did on the show. That is horrible. She said it so comically. They laughed, though they were a little ashamed of doing so. Afterward, they agreed they would never tell Nellie anything because she was two-faced. Okay, shockaroo, you're figuring this out now. Okay, it's in the show. So how horrible was I? And yet, in year 6, Laura wants to become a teacher and comes to me for advice, and I tell her there's no history on the exam to graduate school, that it's all vocabulary. And she believes me. Why did she believe me? And then she studies the wrong thing and she totally flunks the test. It's a disaster. And I'm like, ha 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 ha. It's why? 7 years. And people, I don't know. So yes, Nellie is two-faced, three-faced, four-faced, and she's vile, and these people. The school was so noisy now, it was not really school anymore. When Miss Wilder rang the bell, all the pupils joyfully trooped in to annoy her. She could not watch every one of them at once. She could hardly ever catch anyone. They banged their slates and their books. They threw paper wads and spitballs. They whistled between their teeth and scampered in the aisles. They were all together against Miss Wilder. They delighted in harassing and baffling, hounding her and jeering. You never saw him do this to Miss Beadle, did you? No, never did this to Miss Beadle. No. Evil, terrible, awful, horrible children. That feeling against Miss Wilder almost frightened Laura. No one could stop them now. Oh, these are good. Oh, I needed that. The disorder was so great that Laura could not study. If she could not learn her lessons, she could not get a teacher's certificate soon enough to keep Mary in college. Perhaps Mary must leave college because Laura had twice smiled at naughtiness. So now Laura's freaking out. She's getting guilty because she doesn't even want to go to school. She doesn't even want to get a teacher's certificate. She certainly doesn't want to teach, but she wants to keep Mary in school. Now she's starting to go, okay, wait, now the whole school's gone to hell in a handcart here, and it's kind of my fault, and what if they do expel me, and then I can't become a teacher and save Mary? Stakes are getting high. That's what's happening. She knew now that she should not have done that. Yet, she did not really repent. She did not forgive Miss Wilder. She felt hard and hot as a burning coal when she thought of Miss Wilder's treatment of Carrie. They worry about that a lot. They're always trying to repent and forgive. Like even Mary, who's so good, said, no, I'm not really good. I was faking it. I was showing off. I'm not even perfect. And they agonize over these things. One Friday morning, Ida gave up trying to study in the confusion and began to draw on her slate. The whole first spelling class was making mistakes on purpose and laughing at them. Miss Wilder sent the class to the board to write the lesson. Then she was caught between the pupils of the board and those in the seats. Ida was busily drawing, swinging her feet and humming a little tune in her throat without knowing it, and Laura kept her fists clamped to her ears and tried to study. When Miss Wilder dismissed school for recess, Ida showed Laura the picture she had drawn. It was a comic picture of Miss Wilder, so well done that it looked exactly like her, only more so. Under it, Ida had written, "We have lots of fun going to school. Laugh and grow fat is the only rule. Everyone laughs till their sides ache again at lousy Liza Jane." Again, so I guess you have to say again instead to rhyme with Jane, because we say again, but say ache again at lazy Liza Jane. That's a pretty weird poem. It's horrible. I can't get the verse just right somehow, Ida said. Mary Power and Minnie were admiring the picture and laughing. And Mary Power said, "Why don't you get Laura to help you? She makes good verses." Oh, boy. "Oh, will you, Laura, please?" Ida asked. Laura took the slate and the pencil, and while the others waited, she thought of a tune and fitted words to it. She meant only to please Ida, and perhaps just a little, to show off what she could do. Remember, Laura, she hangs out with Paul. Laura is the writer, the talent, so she can, even if we're talking like evil poems and limericks, she's going to be good. She wrote in the place the verse Ida had erased. "Going to school is lots of fun. From laughing we've gained a ton. We laugh until we have a pain at lazy, lousy Liza Jane," which, in fact, is significantly better than the thing Ida read. Ida was delighted, and so were the others. Mary Power said, "I told you Laura could do it." At that moment, Miss Wilder rang the bell. The whole recess had gone as quickly as that. The boys came in, making all the noise they could, and as Charlie passed by and caught sight of the slate, Ida laughed and let him take it. Oh boy. Popcorn. Let's get the popcorn going, cuz now it's all over. Charlie's got the slate with evil, insulting lice. The lice poem, she confided, foolish enough to confide in Nellie that she had had lice. And now Charlie has the slate with the poem. It's not going to go well. Oh boy. "Oh no," Laura cried in a whisper, but she was too late. Until noon, the boys were slipping that slate from one to another, and Laura feared that Miss Wilder would capture it with Ida's drawing and her handwriting on it. Laura breathed a great sigh of relief when the slate came slipping back, and Ida quickly cleaned it with her slate rag. When they all went out to the crisp, sunny outdoors to go home for dinner, Laura heard the boys chanting all along the road to Main Street. "Going to school is lots of fun. From laughing we have gained a ton. We laugh until we have a pain at lazy Liza Jane." See, it's like the early internet. It's like putting something on YouTube or on Twitter. She's written this, and now it has become a meme. It has gone viral, and the whole school knows it. It was on a slate, and now the whole town knows it. And it's like the internet. You can't put it back. Can't put it back in the bottle. She's doomed. Laura gasped. She felt sick for a minute. She cried out, "They mustn't. We must stop them. Oh, Mary Power, Minnie, come on, hurry." She called, "Boys, Charlie, Clarence." "They don't hear you," Minnie said. "We couldn't stop them anyway." Already the boys were separating at Main Street. They were only talking, but Laura had no more than sighed in relief when one began to chant again, and others joined in. Going to school is lots of fun, both up and down Main Street they yelled, lazy louser, lazy Jane. Okay, why haven't they any better sense, Laura said. Laura, said Mary Power, there's just one thing to do. Don't tell who wrote that. Ida won't, I know I won't, and Minnie won't. Will you, Minnie? And they erased the slate, so maybe they're good. Oh, phone calls. Sorry, here. I'll call them back. I can't take a... Don't call me here. Don't you know I'm doing my Prairie reading? I won't tell, will you, Minnie? Cross my heart, Minnie promised, but what about Nellie Oleson? She doesn't know. She was talking with Miss Wilder the whole recess, Mary Power reminded them, and you'll never tell, will you, Laura? Well, not unless Pa or Ma ask me straight out, said Laura. Likely they won't think to, and then nobody will ever know, Mary Power tried to comfort Laura. Yeah, this is totally like trying to erase something from Facebook or Twitter, isn't it? It's like that. While they were eating dinner, Charlie and Clarence passed by, chanting the frightful verse, and Pa said, oh no, that sounds like some song I don't know. You ever hear a song before about lazy louser, lazy Jane? I never did, said Ma. It doesn't sound like a nice song. Oh, great, because they live in town, so now they hear everything. Laura did not say a word. She thought she'd never been so miserable. Around the schoolhouse, the boys were chanting the verse. Nellie's brother, Willie, oh yay, Willie shows up. Willie was with them. Inside the schoolhouse, Ida and Nellie were standing at the window farthest from Miss Wilder. She must have known that Nellie had told. See, Nellie's going to get in trouble because she's the only one in it, right? So it's going to be tracing her. Nellie was furious. Ha ha ha. She wanted to know who had written that verse, but Ida had not told her, and none of the others would. No doubt her brother Willie knew or would find out. He would tell her, and then she would tell Miss Wilder. After school that night, and again on Saturday, the boys could be heard chanting those words. In the bright, clear weather, they were all outdoors. Laura could almost have welcomed a blizzard to shut them in. She had never felt so ashamed, for she had spread Nellie's mean tattle-telling farther than Nellie ever could have. She blamed herself, yet she still blamed Miss Wilder far more. If Miss Wilder had been only decently fair to Carrie, Laura never could have gotten into such trouble. Well, and if she wasn't dumb enough to trust Nellie Oleson. But there you go. So, that's how evil spreads. Nellie betrays Miss Wilder and tells a story, but then Laura gets into writing this poem, and now the boys have it. Now it's too late. Now it's too late. It's gone viral. And it was Nellie was the evil source here, but Laura spread it. Terrible. What are you going to do? Uh-oh. That afternoon, Mary Power came to visit. Oh. Often on Saturday afternoons, she and Laura visited and worked together. They sat in the pleasant, sunny front room. Laura was crocheting a nubia of soft white wool for Mary's Christmas present in college. What is a nubia? How do you crochet? Crochet a nubia? Crochet a nubia? I have no idea. But apparently nubia is something you can crochet and makes a lovely gift. So one of you will eventually tell me what the heck a nubia is. I know you will. I know someone will do it. All right. Nubia. Of soft white wool. And Mary Power was knitting a silk necktie for her father's Christmas. Ma rocked and knitted, or sometimes read interesting bits to them from her church paper, The Advance. Grace played about, and Carrie sewed a 9-patch quilt block. Those were such pleasant afternoons. The winter sunshine streamed in. The room was pleasantly warm from the coal heater. Kitty, grown now to a cat, stretched and lazily purred in the sunshine on the rag rug, or curved purring against the front door, asking with a meow to be let out to watch for dogs. Kitty had become famous in town. Remember she killed a mouse when she was a kitten this big, and they were worried the mouse was going to kill her, but she wound up killing a mouse. And, like, her eyes were barely open. She's like, evil cat. She was such a pretty cat, such a clean blue and white, with slender body and long tail, that everyone wanted to pet her. But she was a one-family cat. Only the family could touch her. When anyone else stopped to stroke her, she flew snarling and clawing into his face. Usually someone screeched, "Don't touch that cat," in time to save them. Oh, here we go. Janie has helped us out here. A nubia is a scarf about 3 yards long. Wait, what? Who? Where? It's about 3 yards long and 18 inches wide, worn over the head with the ends wound around the neck or crossed over the chest. Also known as a shawl, a muffler, a mantle. It's like, see more. I'm like reading stuff. Or a Sontag. But yes, okay. So it's a fancy, it's the kind you wrap around your head and then got it. I was like, what the heck? Nubia. So Kitty's evil. She liked to sit on the front doorstep and look about the town. Boys and sometimes the men would set a new dog on her to see the fun. Yeah, that's like sick and cruel, right? Well, okay. But Kitty sat placidly while the dog growled and barked, but she was always ready. When the dog rushed, she rose in the air with a heart-stopping yowl and landed squarely on the dog's back with all claws sunk into it. The dog went away from there. They went in a streak, Kitty silently riding the dog, yikee-yi, yowling. When Kitty thought she was far enough from home, she dropped off, but the dog went on. Then Kitty walked home with proudly upright tail. Only a new dog could be set on Kitty. No dog ever attacked that cat twice. I love that. Yeah, that's like, we had a cat, Clarice. She was like that. She could take on dogs, coyotes. She didn't care. She didn't care. Terrifying. Nothing could be a greater pleasure than those Saturday afternoons when Mary Power's friendliness was added to the coziness of home, and Kitty might furnish exciting entertainment. It's just like now. When you have a cat, you get exciting entertainment. Mm. And everyone's Googling Nubia. This is hilarious. Okay. Now, Laura could not truly enjoy even this. She sat dreading to hear the boys chanting that verse again, and in her chest was a gloomy weight. I should make a clean breast of it, to Ma and Pa, she thought. She felt again a scalding fury against Miss Wilder. She'd not meant to do harm when she wrote that verse. She'd written it at recess, not in school hours. Oh, it was all too difficult to explain. Perhaps, as Ma had said, it would blow over. Less said, soonest mended. Yet, at that moment, perhaps someone was telling Pa. Mary Power was troubled too. They both made mistakes and had to unravel stitches. Never had they accomplished so little in a Saturday afternoon. Neither of them said a word about school. All the pleasure was gone from school. They were not looking forward to Monday morning. That Monday morning was the worst yet. There was no pretense of study. The boys whistled and catcalled and scuffled in the aisles. All the little girls but Carrie were whispering and giggling, even moving from seat to seat. Miss Wilder's, "Quiet, please, please be quiet," could hardly be heard. There was a knock at the door. Laura and Ida heard it. They sat nearest the door. They looked at each other, and when the knock came again, Ida raised her hand. Miss Wilder paid no attention. Suddenly a loud knock sounded on the entry's inner door. Everyone heard that. The door opened, and the noise died away to silence. The room grew deathly still as Pa came in. Behind him came two other men whom Laura did not know. "Good morning, Miss Wilder," said Pa. "The school board decided it was time to visit the school." Dun, 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 dun. Oh, yeah. They walked in, and they couldn't even hear them knock. The school board shows up for an inspection, and they're rioting in your class, and they can't even hear them knock. Well, she grabbed this opportunity. "Well, it is about time that something was done," Miss Wilder returned. She flushed red and then went pale when she answered, "Good morning," to the other two men, and welcomed them, with Pa, to the front of the room. They stood looking over it. Every pupil was perfectly still, and Laura's heart pounded loud. "We heard you've been having a little trouble," the tall, solemn man said gravely but kindly. "Yes, and I'm very glad of this opportunity to tell you gentlemen the facts of the case," Miss Wilder replied angrily. "It is Laura Ingalls who makes all the trouble in the school. She thinks she can run the school because her father is on the school board. Yes, Mr. Ingalls, that is the truth. She brags that she can run this school. She didn't think I would hear of it, but I did." She flashed a glance of angry triumph at Laura. Laura sat dumbfounded. She had never thought that Miss Wilder would tell a lie. "I am sorry to hear this, Miss Wilder," said Pa. "I'm sure that Laura did not intend to make trouble." Laura raised her hand, but Pa slightly shook his head at her. She encourages the boys to be unruly too. That is the whole trouble with them, Miss Wilder declared. Laura Ingalls eggs them on every kind of mischief and disobedience. Pa looked at Charlie, and his eyes were twinkling. He said, "Young man, I hear you got punished for sitting on a bent pin." "Oh, no, sir," Charlie replied, a picture of innocence. "I was not punished for sitting on it, sir, but for getting up off of it." Okay, that was pretty good. Okay, here, school board. There they are, yeah. And it's kind of like a very comedy effect because there's Pa, and then there's like the little short round guy, the big tall guy, who kind of is doing like a Clark Gable thing with the hair there. Yes, that's kind of cool. See, school board. Very stern, and Miss Wilder's just flipping out. The jolly member of the school board suddenly choked a laugh into a cough. Even the solemn man's mustache twitched. Miss Wilder flushed dark red. Pa was perfectly sober. No one else even felt like smiling. Slowly and weightily, Pa said, "Miss Wilder, we want you to know that the school board stands with you to keep order in this school." He looked sternly over the whole room. "All you scholars must obey Miss Wilder. Behave yourselves and learn your lessons. We want a good school, and we are going to have it." When Pa spoke like that, he meant what he said, and it would happen. The room was still. The stillness continued after the school board had said good day to Miss Wilder and gone. There was no fidgeting, no whispering. Quietly, every pupil studied, and class after class recited diligently in the quiet. At home, Laura was quiet too, wondering what Pa would say to her. It was not her place to speak of what had happened until he did. He said nothing about it until the supper dishes were washed and they were all settled for the evening around the lamp. Now, of course, we know Pa. Pa talks to the other guys in town. Pa may have gotten the scoop of the whole thing. So, Then, laying down his paper, he looked at Laura and said slowly, "It is time for you to explain what you said to anyone that you could give Miss Wilder the idea you thought you could run the school because I am on the school board." "I didn't say such a thing, and I did not think so, Pa," Laura said earnestly. "I know you didn't," said Pa. "But there was something that gave her such an idea. Think what it could have been." Laura tried to think. She was not prepared for this question, for she had been defending herself in her mind and declaring that Miss Wilder had told a lie. She had not looked for the reason that Miss Wilder told it. "Did you speak to anyone about my being on the school board?" Pa prompted her. Nellie Oleson had spoken of it often, but Laura had only wished she wouldn't. Then she remembered the quarrel when Nellie had almost slapped her. She said, "Nellie Oleson told me that Miss Wilder said you haven't much to say about the school, even if you are on the school board. And I said," she had been so angry, it was hard to remember exactly what she'd said. "I said that you have much to say about the school as anybody. And then I said it's too bad your father doesn't own a place in town. Maybe if you weren't just country folks, your father could be at the school board." "Oh, Laura," Ma said sorrowfully. That made her angry. I wanted to," said Laura. "I meant to make her mad. When we lived on Plum Creek, she was always making fun of Mary and me because we're country girls. She could find out what it feels like herself." "Laura, Ma protested in distress. "How can you be so unforgiving? That was years ago." "She was impudent to you, too, and mean to Jack," Laura said, and tears smarted in her eyes. "Never mind," Pa said. "Jack was a good dog, and he's gone to his reward. So Nellie twisted what you said and told it to Miss Wilder, and that's made all this trouble, I see." He took up his paper. "Well, Laura, maybe you've learned a lesson that is worthwhile. Just remember, a dog that will fetch a bone will carry a bone." "What?" For a little while there was silence, as they were probably going, What? The dog will fetch a bone, carry a bone? Okay. And Carrie began again to study her spelling. And then Ma said, "If you'll bring me your album, Laura, I would like to write in it." "Well, okay, Nellie, a dog that will fetch a bone, carry a bone." It's like, again, don't trust Nellie Oleson. A dog that will fetch a bone, that will say those kind of things, will carry a bone and go repeat it to everyone else, and you'll get in trouble. Dog will fetch a bone and carry a bone. So then she wants to write in her autograph book that she got. Laura fetched her album from her box upstairs, and Ma sat at the desk and carefully wrote in it with her little pearl-handled pen. She dried the page carefully over the lamp and returned the album to Laura. On the smooth cream-colored page in Ma's fine handwriting, Laura read. And it's a little handwritten thing, a little poem. But I remember this because when autograph books became in again in like the 50s and 60s, I was a little kid in the 60s, but autograph books like exploded again late 50s, early 60s. And this was a thing people wrote in people's yearbooks. This was in again by the 60s, 70s. And I have to go, what? Because it's like handwriting stuff. And if wisdom's ways you wisely seek, 5 things observe with care. To whom you speak, of whom you speak, and how and when and where. Your loving mother, Caroline Ingalls, Dismet, November 15th, 1881. And, well, she's right. She's right, of course. All right, that was like a lot, because we're up to like page 184. I would read the next chapter, but it's insanely long. Laura's doing it again, although it is cool. The next one is all about the name cards. And this is where they all got little cards made with their names on. That was like an in thing. And I have actually seen, and I believe it was at the Mansfield Museum, an exhibit of name cards. And yes, I saw Nellie Owen's name card. It exists. Wow. So, yes. Someone just said the talking machine. Yeah, see, there you go. Laura confided in Nellie that she liked the boy. And Nellie recorded and played it in front of the school. Because, see, there you go. And even in the 1800s. Do not trust Nellie Oleson. This is the moral of the story. When you know that someone is awful and they're gossiping about someone else, it's like, well, 3 guesses what they're saying about you when you're out of the room. So when someone is obviously awful like Nellie Oleson and don't tell them things. Of course, anything you say can and will be used against you. No, she's telling you that the teacher had lice. You know this is bad, and you're not going to repeat that. Do not get into that, because she is causing trouble. And you know if you tell her, yes, my pa's on the school, it's like, no, do not go there. She will use this. She is evil. She is evil, and she'll use this against you. So, yes, so there you go. Laura learns that there are people that are not to be trusted. So, I'm going to eat these here sticks, and, I went swimming this morning. I might swim this afternoon. Where am I? I'm not telling you. Tomorrow is Sunday. And tomorrow is, Living on a Prairie, final episode. And it's like noon California time, like 3 o'clock, New York time. And whole cast, big cast reunion online, and an auction of fun stuff for the Actors Fund. It's really cool, and it's the last episode, and it's the one that Charlotte Stewart, who was Miss Beadle, is in, with tattoos. She did not really get tattoos. She has the fake tattoos. But, you know, when they first put up the pictures of her from this scene with this really wild, because she plays this bartender with crazy eye makeup and all the tattoos. So she put up one of the pictures and didn't explain it, and people freaked out, and they're like, I know Miss Beadle got tattoos. And people thought she had really done her hair and makeup that way, like regular, like to go to the supermarket. And that she was heavily tattooed now, and they were very upset. So, no, Charlotte did not do that. She still totally looks like Charlotte. But you will go bananas when you see her in this, in Living on a Prairie, tomorrow at noon. And then Thursday the 25th, yes, Thursday, I will do my show in my living room. It will be awesome. There's more stuff, too. There's a Kickstarter starting for a movie that I'm probably going to be in. It's going to be awesome. We'll do that. I'm doing a rerun on my Tuesday radio show, Richard Pryor Jr. We're going to rerun his episode. It is freaking awesome. So stuff, things. Tomorrow, I will do this again tomorrow. I will probably be late, because Living on a Prairie starts at 12. And it's not long, but the cast reunion thing is like way long. So I'm going to say 3 o'clock. I will probably be 3 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, Sunday, Father's Day. I will be on 3, and I will be in a green bonnet, and I will read about the name cards, and it'll be awesome. And I'll have snacks, and it'll be good. So much fun. I love when there's an Nellie chapter. Yes, absolutely. It was awesome. So see you tomorrow. Wash your hands, wear your mask, be good, be nice. It's the first day of summer, and tomorrow's Father's Day, so if you didn't get a card or a present, you should get on that right now. Get on that.